This week, I'm driving the latest Raptor in the Ford lineup, the Ranger Raptor. As always, I'm going to go through this thing from the outside and talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week. Let's go ahead, take a look. Ford saves the Raptor moniker for their highly capable off-roaders that are street legal, presumably because owls are known for their ability to run quickly on sand. But we finally get the Ranger Raptor here in North America. This has been available in other parts of the world, but this is the first time here for 2024 that we are seeing the Ranger Raptor. This is going to be quite a bit cheaper than the Bronco Raptor or the F-150 Raptor. Actually, we're looking at 55 grand, which is a lot for a mid-sized truck, but you're saving about 20 grand over the F-150 Raptor. You're saving about 30 grand over the Bronco Raptor. So this one might actually be my favorite of the Raptors. And if you hop on the configurator for any other mid-sized truck, go look at a TRD off-road, go look at a Colorado ZR2, start adding options to those, and you're pretty much going to end up around 55 to 60 grand anyway. So this is priced just about in line with the market. Underneath the hood here, which I am nearly too short to see over, but we've got a graphite iron cylinder block. We've got a lot of extra reinforcement at the mounting points here. We really beefed up this engine bay here for the Raptor version of this Ranger. This is also one of very few V6s, very few 6 cylinders period left in the mid-size truck segment. You can get a Frontier with a V6 that's naturally aspirated. If you want a turbocharged V6, then this is it. This is a 3-liter twin turbo, makes 405 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Now, compared to some of the competition, that torque number is about on par with the Colorado ZR2, even though that one is a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. And it's going to be a little bit less actually than the Tacoma if you get the Tacoma with the iForce Max engine, that hybrid system with the 4-cylinder, the turbo, and the electric motor. The power figure, the 405 horsepower, is actually going to be quite a bit more than both the Taco and the Colorado. And this one's going to be mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's actually the only 10-speed in the mid-sized truck segment, interestingly enough. You also get a 10-speed in the other Rangers as well. And you're going to get a full-time 4-wheel drive system, which is different from the one in the regular Ranger. This is going to have front and rear electronically locking differentials. And while fuel economy is probably not super high on your list when you're buying a mid-size off-road truck, this one is rated at about 16 city, 18 highway. I'm getting about 16 combined here, so that's pretty on par there. This thing has such a massive presence from the side. Mid-sized trucks are so big nowadays. This thing is about 211 inches overall, which is pretty close to the Tacoma and the Colorado, pretty much on par. Not too many issues with parking here with the mid-sized truck segment. Gets a little bit tight in some spots here in New England, but for the most part, haven't really had any problems with parking it, especially with those cameras. This one does get you the full 360 view. You can see the camera poking out down here, but it's just crazy. The original Ranger, 1983, if you get the regular cab, a 6-foot bed, that one was 3 feet shorter than this truck, which is crazy. But this one, you can only get it with a Super Crew, the crew cab here, and the 5-foot bed. The Raptor graphic over there is going to be optional, but this thing has Raptor written all over it, so people will definitely know that this thing is a Raptor. You get the bigger fender flares, you get a nice big lift to this. It has the Fox dampers on the front, and it has the Watts Link rear suspension going on. This one's about 10.7 inches of ground clearance, about 1.5 inches higher than the tallest of the other Rangers, and it's going to be pretty on par with the Colorado ZR2 as well as the Tacoma TRD Off-Road. TRD Off-Road is slightly taller technically, my 0.3 inches, but this one is going to give you quite a bit of ground clearance. And we're on these massive all-terrain tires. These are 33-inch tires on 17-inch wheels. You can option beadlock capable wheels, which this one does have here. You get this runner standard, which I love to see that as a short person in a massive truck. And we got Raptor logo on there because the Raptor logo has to be on everything. LED turn signals in here, blind spot monitoring. These things will even power fold. As you can see, you can lock this, touch to lock, touch to unlock, and you got the keypad too. But that keypad is an additional option. That one is not standard. No touch to lock on the back doors here. So you do have to go to the front, and you got your key available there. Really nice and easily. Speaking of the key fob, they did keep this thing nice and simple here. You do just have the lock, unlock, panic, and your remote start. Remote start is going to be standard. Again, you got to know that it's a Raptor. Remote start is going to be standard though. Just lock it up, double tap right there on the key fob. I always love it when they do that instead of hiding it in the app. As with all the other Raptors in Ford's lineup, you get Ford spelled out across the front instead of the little blue oval. When you get a Raptor, is the easiest way to identify this thing, as if you couldn't already tell that it was a Raptor. But you get projector LED headlights as well instead of the reflector LEDs, and instead of the halogens available in some of the other trim levels. And you get this sort of C shape going on. You got daytime running lights are LEDs as well. You get fog lights are LEDs. Stuff is all standard. There aren't really any packages on top of this. A couple of accessory things, a couple of little things, but for the most part, this is pretty much just you get what you get with the Raptor. You got parking sensors across the front that work great. This is great, especially when you're so high up, you can't really see what's going on in front of you. Pull into the parking space, the sensors go off. Not only does it give you a little subtle beep, but it will turn on the cameras for you, and you got the full 360 camera. So that really does help quite a bit with parking, and it helps quite a bit if you're in like a daycare drop-off line, a school drop-off line. You got little kids running around that are much below the front or back of this truck. You get the two tow hooks up here. You got the steel front bumper going on. You get the bash plate going back there to protect the underbody of this thing as well. Really nice looking aggressive front end. Love the contour as well. We didn't go simple on it. And you got the Raptor graphic sort of poking through over here. Really great looking front end, aggressive, looks really nice. Got the Raptor logo with a little bit of graphics on the back too, just so people behind you know that you got the Raptor too. You really wanted everyone to know that this thing was a Raptor. But the Class 4 trailer hitch, this one's going to tow about 5,500 pounds. You do lose about 2,000 pounds of towing ability with this one as compared to the other Rangers. That's kind of typical with Ford when they go towards the more off-roady versions of their trucks, and you do tend to lose some of the towing and some of the payload ability, about 1,300 pounds for the payload, which is going to be down a little bit from the other Rangers as well. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. You got the tow hooks back here as well, again standard. You got dual exhaust instead of the single exhaust, with this one being the Raptor. LED tail lights going on here. I like this design through here, really nice looking design going on. Power locking tailgate, and it's got this nice sort of slow descent so that you don't bash your knees on this thing. Got the measuring tape across here. Got a spot for your clamps, which is nice. This one's a little bit broken though. Don't like to see that, but it's nice that they added that slot there so you can clamp stuff down. This one's got the spray-in bed liner option on it, or you can get a drop-in bed liner as well. It's only a few $100 for that. Couple of ports back here. Got a 12 volt and 120 volt back there. No steps to get up in here. Got the slots in here, of course. You got some tie downs going on all around the outside. And this one's about 5 feet long. It's a 5-foot bed. That's the only way you can get the Ranger here in 2024 is with a 5-foot bed. Oh, I'm so glad they put those runners on these. You get the runner standard since this is the Raptor version. They don't really give you many options at all on the Raptor. Everything you see on this interior here is standard. Just this is just the way the Raptor comes. And just in case you weren't sure that this was a Raptor, orange stitching, orange Raptor logo, orange stitching around here, orange around there, Raptor on the seats, more orange over here. They want you to know, Ford wants you to know when you get in this car that this is the Raptor version of this car. But they did a good job here with sort of dealing with the materials here for a $55,000 off-road truck. It's 55 grand. You want it to be pretty nice. It's an off-road truck. you don't want it to be precious. So we got some like nice materials through here, stuff that's not super touch point really. You know, you might lay your arm on here, but probably not going to get super dirty down in here, and the doors leather wrapping. But then we got the hard plastics through here, some hard plastics up through there. You know, it's a good balance here between sort of nice materials, but also something that can take a beating. And it's really laid out pretty well here as well. The only thing that I don't really like the layout of is I wish that instead of vertical here, this was horizontal. They did a good job of integrating the infotainment into the dash instead of just like sticking it as a tablet on top. But I wish it was horizontal just because it's a little bit easier, I think, to get like bigger views of things, like your backup camera and everything can be a lot bigger. Plus you don't have to look all the way down here when you're trying to do stuff in the screen. You're a little bit closer to your vision on the road here. But there's quite a bit of stuff in here. You can change all kinds of settings through here. You got Android Auto, we got Apple CarPlay, are both wireless standard. There's Alexa through here as well. You got all types of different camera views. You can see the trailer hitch, you can see the bed view. You know, you got all kinds of different camera views in there. You got all kinds of different settings through here. You can even draw a sketch if you need to show somebody something. Maybe your kid's sitting in the passenger seat and they just want to draw whatever it is. That's pretty cool that it has a little sketch pad in there. I've never seen that before. All kinds of settings buried in there. You've got your HVAC down here at the bottom, though, always available, and you have physical controls for the HVAC as well. So I'm glad they kept that sort of separate. Unless you want to do like your heated seats and heated steering wheel, then you do have to go in through the infotainment, but it is easy to get to. At least wireless charger is going to be standard down there. USB-A and a USB-C. You got your fry holder up here. It's labeled just in case you weren't quite sure what this slot was for. That is a fry holder. This one here, you can put sunglasses, cell phone, a drink, or a key, apparently. Nothing else. Otherwise, you know, the whole truck will blow up if you put something in there that's not supposed to be in there, not compatible with these cup holders. Drive mode's nice and easy to get to. You got your different you got your transfer case access down here as well. Your auto start stop, your traction control, your parking, as this does have the whole parking assist thing going on as well. Steering wheel laid out really nicely. Buttons for your suspension, your steering, your exhaust, your adaptive cruise. A nice big paddle shifters going on. Got the memory seats, 3 different settings on these. These are power adjustable with power lumbar support. Can't control the bolsters or anything. And I mentioned your heated seat settings are in through the infotainment, but there's no cooled seats. I wish there was an option for cooled seats. Again, 55 grand, it'd be nice as an option at least. But these are pretty supportive, actually. I do like these seats quite a bit. You can only get these with the leather trim here. Home link up here for your garage door opener. All kinds of auxiliary switches that come standard on the Raptor here. You got 6 different auxiliary switches if you want to hook up whatever it is you want to hook up. Sunglasses holder up there. There's your back window control. Got some lights, auto dimming rear view mirror, your trailer brake control over here. Really nice and easy to access everything that you need on a regular basis. The gauge cluster, also really a very well done gauge cluster. This is probably the best cluster of any of the trucks I've been in so far. Everything's laid out really well. It's easy to see everything that you need. The colors change slightly when you go through your different driving modes. But you can have some custom stuff up at the top, your oil temperature, your boost, your fuel economy, whatever it is you want. You can sort of customize this a little bit here, but it really is laid out in a very thoughtful way. You know, your tack on the left, your speed on the right, but then there's sort of like stuff in between and stuff all around. Is very informative and very helpful information, and you can sort of cycle through here. And if you don't want all of that stuff to be showing, first of all, you can set up your custom view, or you can just go all the way up into the calm mode, where it just sort of blocks everything out except for a couple of different pieces of information. Really nice and clean and clear and well done here. No heads-up display on this one. I'm a little bit surprised there. That's not even an option. Would be nice to see. but really not the end of the world. The cluster here is done very, very well. Got some sort of interesting door handles going on. It's like this sort of switch thing. You get used to that pretty quickly, though. Actually, I kind of like it a little bit low impact going on rather than grabbing up the whole door handle. And we got the Bang & Olufsen sound system up here. 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system with the subwoofer. Sounds pretty good. We are still in a mid-sized truck, so it's not exactly sanctuary quiet in here when you're on the highway, but it's a pretty good sound system. I like what Bang & Olufsen does, generally speaking. The back seats, well, they're tight. It's a mid-sized truck. It's about on par with the Colorado and the Canyon and the Tacoma. The Tacoma, technically, if you look at the spec sheet, it has more space, but getting in the back of that one doesn't really feel like it's much more space than this at all. It does help that they put those little cutout here in the seat. I've got the front seat set for me at 5'7" as well. But I'm okay back here. Might not want to be back here for a super long period of time. And if you're on the taller side, then you're going to run into some problems. But me, I'm 5'7" with the front seat set for me. I'm totally fine. Kids will fit okay back here in forward-facing seats. Rear-facing seats might be a little bit on the tight side, but you do have the ISOFIX latches. You got the anchors behind the seat here, since these seats do fold down. They also fold up for a little bit of extra storage underneath. Got the cup holders back here as well in the center. Got a little bit of extra storage down here. We do have a 120. We got a USB-A and a USB-C. No vents though, unfortunately. I wish there were some vents back here. But outside of that, it's a decent place to be and about what you'd expect in a $55,000 mid-sized truck. As always, I've been living with this truck for the last week, and I've said this in past videos. I'm not like the off-road guy. I'm not going to give you the great advice on off-roading and how this thing does off-road. So there are plenty of other channels out there that do that, but presumably you're dropping 60 grand on a truck. You're probably also daily driving it. You're probably also living with this thing day to day, and that's what I've been doing with it. If you are not, if you have an extra 60 grand to throw on an off-road truck and you have another daily driver that would love some financial advice, feel free to send me some of that. But this thing has been surprisingly easy to live with. It's got a lot going against it, you would think, with this being a mid-sized truck. Mid-sized trucks are typically not great daily drivers, kind of ride pretty rough. They're usually pretty loud. They don't get great fuel economy. It's just not a great position to be in. Plus, it's an off-road focus. You've got the big all-terrain tires on it. It's just you don't expect it to be very good as a daily. And honestly, this is probably the best of the mid-sized trucks that I've been in so far in terms of daily driving. I was super surprised about that. So we've got this off-road suspension here going on. We got the Fox shocks in the front, the Watts Link rear suspension. This one does have coil springs. The rest of the Ranger lineup gets leaf springs, so that's going to make a big difference here, having those coil springs as well. One of the big things here with the suspension setup is the last 25% of your suspension travel kind of like beef up the damping, so that you don't bottom out really hard when you are off-roading, but that also really helps for the daily drive. One of the things with the Canyon, when I was in that, it was like bouncing up and down a lot. And so this does a good job of like, there's just enough bounce to keep the ride quality really good without like making you fly up and down all the time. You're really pretty shocked at how well this rides. It's also surprisingly quiet in here. I did not expect it to be quiet at all. I expected it to be super loud in here. And, it is still a truck. You're not like in a Lexus sanctuary here. But honestly, it's quieter in here than a lot of like cars and SUVs that I've been in, which is pretty surprising. So that's really great. It maneuvers surprisingly well. I did not expect it to maneuver super well. Just because, again, big truck, big knobby tires, not exactly expected, but it maneuvers surprisingly well as well. I've been like having no problems parking in tight spots and things like that. Going around tight corners, any issues with that. It is quick. Of course, it's got this big engine in it. It's not like race car quick. It's not Raptor R quick. There's no Raptor R version of the Ranger, despite what Google AI says. I wish there was. But it is still pretty quick here. They do have this supposedly race-bred anti-lag built in. If you're in Baja mode, supposedly the turbos will like keep spinning for up to 3 seconds after you let off the throttle, so that it'll like get rid of some of that lag. But when you're just driving around in normal mode or even in sport mode, you get a little bit more lag, you get a little bit more throttle lag. It's supposed to make it a little bit more comfortable. So you do have a little bit of that. And then you get this kind of big shove, and it can move out of its way very quickly once you get that big shove from those turbos. I mentioned those different driving modes. There's like 6 million different driving modes. You got Baja mode, you got sport mode, you got normal mode, you got rock crawling mode. There's all kinds of different modes for every different situation. And the sport mode is supposed to be like a street mode where you're like pushing it a little bit harder. And honestly, in normal mode, it's been fine. Like you put it into sport mode, it gets really aggressive, like holding gears for a long time, really wringing them out, even with this 10 speed. When you put your foot into it, you know, the truck knows that you're trying to push, and it will bring the gears out even in normal mode. And even with this 10, even having 10 speeds going on here, it does have the big paddle shifters here too, if you want to shift for yourself. Responsive enough, quick enough. Most people probably aren't going to be using those pedals. They're there if you're into it. This also has a great amount of like safety driver's assist features, which again, I wasn't necessarily expecting on a big off-road truck. It's got pretty good visibility for a truck. Nice big mirrors. And out the back is always a problem because you're high up, and then you got the bed there and kind of a small window. But you do have the backup cameras. You got all the sensors going on. The sensors have been good in that they're like not super in the way, but they're helpful. So that's good. That's a well done system here. And again, you know, when I'm dropping my kids off at school or at daycare or whatever, and there's a lot of little kids running around, I love to have all that extra stuff. All that extra stuff was just like very, you know, it's extra peace of mind when, you know, these kids, I cannot see these kids in this big lifted truck. First gen Ranger, would have been able to see them fine. This one, not so much. Adaptive cruise all the way down to stop and go traffic, and a lane centering system. And those work really great. Again, this is an off-road truck. You don't really expect to get this kind of stuff in here, but it really does well. Like on the highway, you just put on your lane centering with your adaptive cruise. It'll keep your speed really nicely. It'll keep your distance from the person in front of you, or even go all the way down to stop and go traffic, and it keeps you centered in your lane pretty well. Like this lane centering works surprisingly well as well. And it's just a great truck that's easy to live with and surprisingly good on the street. Really have been impressed with how good this thing is on the street. I wish the brakes were a little grabbier, but they will get there. You just have to get a little bit deeper into the pedal than maybe I would like to with something that's this quick. But overall, you know, it's shockingly good to live with. This is one of the better road trucks I've been in. I've been in the Colorado, I've been in the Canyon, I've been in the Tacoma TRD Sport, and I didn't expect this to be the best mid-sized truck on the street. Plus, you save a bunch of money from this over the Bronco Raptor, save a bunch of money from this over the F-150 Raptor. Like, this is a pretty solid way to go here. At the end of the day, 55 grand is a lot to spend on a mid-sized truck, but again, it's sort of on par with the market. And despite this being an off-road focused vehicle, it is actually quite good on-road. It rides surprisingly well for a mid-sized truck. You get some great features in the interior to make it comfortable for everyday living, and it is plenty quick with the twin-turbo V6. I actually have been really surprised at how much I've loved living with this truck this week. Now, if you're like me and you don't have any kind of off-road chops and you want to learn the truck a little bit better, you do get a free day of assault school, which is a terrible name for a great idea. When you buy this truck, you get a one-day course out in Utah. You can go learn the ins and outs of this truck in an off-road setting out there in Utah. If you're someone that bought one of these trucks, you're someone that bought the competition, if you're just shopping for one of these, we know down in the comments what you think about the Ranger Raptor as compared to the others. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
Reviews.